Let's talk about what one can do in reassessment, and I'll just orient us to this theory of change. So we talked about this theory of change in our last session, where when we complete an assessment, right, it helps us know what's going on right now and what's happening. We develop that shared understanding together with the team, right, which means we have to communicate, talk, come to consensus, etc., on where we could the young person could benefit from support, your child could benefit from support. We then develop goals that represent change, right? And we're going to identify what change would look like and how we need to address it. So it's not just a goal, it's the steps to get to the goal. And then we have to identify the interventions and make sure that we're accessing strengths as well as building strengths at the same time, right? This is part of the treatment process. So earlier I focused on the first two components. Let's focus on the second two components, okay? So in a reassessment, we want to make sure that the plan is working. Let's look at the goals that are supposed to represent a change. And for those of us that work in a transformational collaborative outcomes management perspective, we want to help your child and your family transform, right? It's about transforming your lives so that your lives are better. So let's go big or go home, right? So the goals should represent transformational change, significant change, right? You don't want your child just not to be angry and depressed. You want them to have friends, get along with others, get along with you, and be happy, right? Transform their lives. Let's not just be less depressed, right? And we need to identify those action steps and how we're going to do that. I want to highlight something Dr. Israel said yesterday about strengths and bring it home to Idaho. So we've done some work, our team has done some work to understand what is helping kids in Idaho get better. Okay, so the strength building in Idaho is for real. We have identified through our research on the data in Idaho that there are 6 strengths in particular that when they are developed result in overall better outcomes for children. And this includes your children if they are currently have a CANS in the system, that they were part of us looking at this process, right? And here are the 6 specific strengths. The first 3 are internalizing strengths, and the last 3 are externalizing strengths, or externalizing assets, internalizing assets, right? Coping and savoring, that ability of your child to be able to be in the moment and enjoy the moment. That is such a pleasure, right? When you have an anxious, distractible, dysregulated child, to have them be able to just sit and enjoy the moment is like, it's amazing, right? I know what that's like. My child was one of those children. Having interpersonal skills, the ability to make and maintain friendships and relationships. Resilience, the ability to know that you have strengths that you can tap into that can help you, right? That's what resilience in the CANS is all about. It's not the ability to survive. It's the ability to have strengths, know you have them, and tap into them. Educational setting, having school be a place where you can find strength and support, having peers who influence you in a positive way that make your life better and that support your growth and development, and having your family as a place you go to for support. They're there for you, they understand you, and you rely on them. That's family as strengths. So these are the 6 strengths that we have found in Idaho on your CANS that have show a correlation with the most reduction in needs. And you say, well, what does that mean? So let me show you a little bit of data. So this little graph shows in last year in 2020, each quarter, and I'm showing you the quarters just so you see that there's, this wasn't just one time we looked at it. We actually looked at this for several years. I'm just showing you last year's data. The bars on the left, the tall bars, show percentage of needs resolved when 4 out of the 6 strengths on the left were developed. Let me say that again. So these bars right here represent the percent of needs resolved. So these are percentages. So you can see this is a little bit over 60. This is almost like 67, right? Like these are high 60s. 60% of needs resolved when 4 out of 6 of these strengths were developed. Okay, over here we have strengths that weren't developed. So they're strengths to develop. They weren't developed. We still have some needs resolved, but around the 30 to 40%. Okay, when the 4 out of 6 of these needs were not developed, here's the amount of improvement. There's still improvement, but look how dramatic the improvement was in needs resolved when we developed 4 out of 6 strengths. Okay, now, is it just that we developed the strengths? Probably not. The stories we're starting to hear about cases or families where 4 out of 5 of these strengths were developed talk about engagement, right? The families improved engagement in the process when the focus was also on developing strengths, right? So we can continue to address needs by focusing on need reduction, but we can enhance, right? Even multiply that impact if we develop strengths at the same time. And there's data in Idaho that shows us that this is true.